Gunther challenging Jey Uso for that World Heavyweight Championship, and we now have a new World Heavyweight Champion in Gunther. What a match, and an ending, Bully, that when you look at it, you shouldn't be surprised, but I got to tell you, I was surprised watching that match last night. Your thoughts?
Why were you surprised?
Was not expecting Jey Uso to drop that World Heavyweight Championship.
We talked about at the end of the show yesterday about a possible cash-in by Seth Rollins. Your words.
Yes.
So why are you so shocked that he lost?
Well, I mean, it's one thing to have a cash-in from Seth Rollins. It's a completely other thing to have Gunther win that World Heavyweight Championship again. And we saw on SmackDown before Money in the Bank, and even, hinted at Money in the Bank as well, with Logan Paul holding that World Heavyweight Championship above his head. I thought the road coming out of Money in the Bank for that World Heavyweight Championship was going to be completely different. But now that road has taken a complete exit right off the main road, and now Gunther is your World Heavyweight Champion. I'm just being honest with you, Bully. I did not see Jey Uso losing to Gunther last night.
I have zero problem with it. I think last week we talked about, or I remember I had mentioned Jey Uso didn't feel like a World Heavyweight Champion. He felt like the guy that won the World Heavyweight Championship. I really enjoyed Jey's entrance last night. I thought last week we talked about how it was getting a little passé. Last night I thought that Phoenix crowd was hot, hot, hot. That was a great entrance by Jey Uso to the ring last night right before he lost to Gunther. I loved the match. I really did. And I loved it for the last 4 to 5 minutes. What did they do in the last 4 to 5 minutes? Well, they exchanged sleeper holds.
Yep.
Think about that. It's 2025 in a world where professional wrestling was about flips and finishes and kickouts and super kicks and code reds and Canadian destroyers and your sister's ass. And these two guys exchanged sleeper holds, telling a story, call back to the last match that they had, or one of the last matches that they had. Plus, they just kept reversing the sleeper. The sleeper hold. As that move that kind of disappeared in the 80s. It evolved into like the rear naked choke, Taz, the Kata Hajime, Samoa Joe, the, whatever he called it. They exchanged old school sleeper holds. Do you know who I thought about when I saw the finish of the match last night?
Adrian Adonis?
Ding, ding, ding. Circle gets the square. Adrian Adonis, who was my favorite sleeper hold guy. Psychology like that I love. And Dave, you have been with me face to face with Gunther when we had him on the show before WrestleMania, whenever we had him on, and I told him how much of a fan I was of his psychology and how that all Japan psychology or that old school psychology. Last night was as old school as it gets. They had that crowd eating out of the palm of their hand for a sleeper hold. It doesn't matter what move you're doing. It matters how you've built to that move, how you execute that move, how you sell that move. And those two guys did a phenomenal job with it. Bravo, Jey Uso. Bravo, Gunther. The finish was a frickin' sleeper hold.
Bully, it's funny that you mentioned Adrian Adonis, and the reason why I answered your question so quickly, because that's exactly who I thought of when I was watching that match last night. Because go back and watch any Adrian Adonis match when he would hit that sleeper on his opponent, his facial. Gunther must have been watching tape of Adrian Adonis, because his facial, when he put on that sleeper hold, reminded me exact of Adrian Adonis. I almost have to go back and watch it because it immediately reminded me of Adrian Adonis. And you talked about the ending of the match, and when Jey Uso passed out from that sleeper hold, Bully, Jey must have known that that camera was going to be right on his face. The way Jey sold it was absolutely phenomenal. And I'll say it right now, of all the matches that we've seen from Jey Uso, that might have been Jey Uso's best match that I've seen, was that main event match with Gunther last night. And you talk about the entrance. The entrance was special because who did he make the entrance with? His son. So his son is sitting at ringside when that sleeper hold and where he passes out. And I love when they were signing off, Jey was kind of consoling his son after now losing the match and losing the World Heavyweight Championship. You want to talk about great storytelling? All you have to do is watch, like you said, the last 4 or 5 minutes of Monday Night Raw from last night to understand what great storytelling is all about.
I love the swerve of using Jay's son during his entrance. He's got his son with him. When was the last time you saw Jey Uso's son come with him to the ring?
I don't think I've seen that before.
So last night was the first time, huh?
That I've noticed it? Yeah, so that should have been a clue right there.
He's never going to lose with his son with him.
Yeah.
And he loses. There was another thing that happened in the match, Dave, that was so small, but once again, reminiscent of that Japanese psychology. Did you see when Gunther was hitting the clotheslines on Jey and he wasn't going down?
Yes.
Do you ever see that in American wrestling?
Very rare, if at all.
I don't remember the last time I saw stiff clotheslines that made good sound in which the guy stayed up. That is all Japan circa the 80s. And I love it. Just taking the, as opposed to these bullshit chops that everybody wants to do. You're taking a good stiff clothesline, you're sucking it up, and you're waiting for the next one. The thing that Gunther does so well, and I think this is rubbed off on Jey, before I go into it, wrestlers become better wrestlers when they're in there with Gunther. You're forced to do the in-between with Gunther. You're forced into Gunther's style of transition, which is very different than most American wrestlers understand. And Gunther has brought it into his matches. So when you see just two guys just standing there doing nothing, and then all of a sudden, wham, there's a stiff clothesline in which the guy doesn't go down, he just eats it up. That's very foreign in American wrestling, but it works. It shows more spirit of the fight than just bullshit chop spots, which are so passé, watered down, and we're so desensitized to now. When I see that stiff clothesline and Jey suck it up and go, come on, give me another one, that really resonates with me. It's the in-between. It's not about the actual move or the spot or the sequence, which I hate that term. It's about what they do in between. And the in-between has always mattered in pro wrestling. It's the in-between that brings you to those moments that actually mean something. And the in-between gets thrown away so much in our industry these days. But Gunther understands the art of transition and the in-between.
And it makes sense in the story, in the build, in the body of the match as well, Bully, because it's like, it's not even as important of doing it, it's when you do it and how you do it and where in the match you're doing it, where you're having a classic matchup between two guys for a championship title where it's even and they're getting frustrated and what's it going to take to knock this guy off their feet. Like, that's part of the story. It's, not at the beginning of the match when you're just doing it to do it. Like, you're doing it in the match because they're at that point where it's so even that they're wondering who's the better man. And the best part of it was the reversal of the sleeper hold. And then Gunther getting the advantage again and those strikes. Like, how real, look, the sweat flying. Again, where in the match that you're doing that? And, like, once Gunther put that sleeper hold back on Jey Uso after those strikes, game over. Lights out, man. Like, I think everybody in the arena knew that this was it, that Jey was done. Like, So you go into that match and you have no thought of Jey Uso dropping that championship. You think this is just a fun main event on the road to SummerSlam where Jey Uso is going to retain the championship. And before the match is over, before the bell rings, Bully, you're like, this match is done. Jey is finished. Like, that was unbelievable last night. Because once he put that sleeper hold back on Jey Uso, you knew that Jey Uso was done. There was no way he was getting out of it.
The motto of our wrestling school, the Team 3D Academy, was old school rules, new school tools. And that's been our motto since day one when we opened up in like 2007, whatever it was. Old school psychology, old school methodology, combined with new school moves and what works for TV these days. What you got last night was the best of both worlds. And normally you get that with Gunther. And I'm one of those guys, if I was a producer, if I was Gunther's producer, I would leave the majority of it in Gunther's hands. That's how much confidence I have in him putting matches together and telling the story that needs to be told on any given night. What I saw last night was old school psychology that worked in 2025 for modern TV wrestling. You got all the good false finishes, the movement false finishes, you know, the moves, you know, splash off the top or super kick or whatever, your power bomb. You got moves. And even the moves that they did, really nothing crazy special. You're not seeing any freaking, Canadian destroyers or any, nutso stuff like that. You're seeing normal moves. But where they're being done in the match and by who, it's like Gunther even hit a little baby power bomb, and one of the announcers was like, "Oh my God, power bomb! It's over for Jey Uso," because it's Gunther hitting a power bomb, and he's won with power bombs before. The thing about Gunther that's so great is you don't know what he's going to win with. There's no one finish for Gunther. Gunther can win with a variety of things.
And he showed
That's what keeps you on your toes.
He could win with a power bomb. He could win with a forearm. He could win with a lariat. He could win like he did last night with a sleeper hold. Because I think the biggest thing you said, Bully, is the spirit of the fight. And we talk about this all the time. And you kind of do a master's class every week where you get frustrated about, it's supposed to look like a fight. It's supposed to look like a battle. It's not supposed to look like, well, I'm going to outmove you or I'm going to outshine you in the ring and I'm going to get my shit in. It's about making what you do in the ring, especially a championship match in a main event like we got last night. Like, you're fighting. Jey Uso and Gunther as well, when that match was over, they looked like two guys that were just in a fight. Like, they were selling that as well. Like, Gunther was out of breath. Like, Jey Uso was on the floor outside the ring. Like, that's the way it's supposed to look. Two warriors battling it out for a championship. I can't say enough good things about that match. And you're absolutely right. Like, when's the last time you saw something as simple as a sleeper hold? We talk about it all the time, and you'll bring up videos that you see, whether it's on YouTube or social media, like, Ronnie Garvin with the right hand or Ivan Putski with the Polish hammer. Like, simple things that could lead to the end of the match and get a reaction from the crowd. Listen to the crowd. Paul, our producer, brought it up before the show. Go back and watch that match and listen to the crowd. When Gunther puts that sleeper hold back on Jey Uso, listen to the crowd. How defeated the crowd sounded, because they were in there for every second of that match. They were on the ride that those two guys took them on the entire match.
The manipulation of emotions. And you just used a great word, defeated. Jey Uso was the one who was defeated in the middle of the ring, but the crowd had the emotion of defeated when it was over. They lost with Jey Uso. How do you do that? You do it by using old school rules and great psychology. You use it because your characters are over and you've established the character the right way and what you should expect from the character. It works because of the story you tell in the ring.
Yep.
Lately, I have been watching, not just because of social media and what pops up in my trends, a lot of old school wrestling. And when I see it, it frustrates me more and more as to what I see today. I am not a big believer in the whole, oh, well, it's a different time, it's a different business. What we saw last night was as old school gets in that finish, and it worked. So don't give me the different time, it's a different era, it's a different this. No, wrestling has allowed itself to get away from the things that made it special. The beauty of the simplicity of it. KISS, keep it simple, stupid. The beauty of simplicity.